Welcome back to the Warehouse Podcast. I'm Tyler.
I'm Jesse.
I'm sorry. I forgot to start the good recording.
Oh my God.
I actually have it this time.
What a disaster.
Try again.
Okay. Welcome to the Warehouse Podcast. I'm Tyler.
I'm Jesse.
And I'm Eli.
And we are back, boys. It's been a while. It's been a couple weeks. I left the city I'm not in the city, but I left town for a little bit. How are things going, Jess?
Things are going pretty well. It's pretty exciting to be watching all the playoff races that we're not involved in happening throughout Major League Baseball. So that's pretty exciting. But yeah, no, things are good for me personally right now. So yeah, everything's cool. But yeah, it feels like forever since we've done an episode. So I'm excited to be back here. And we have a lot to talk about. Like, we're covering a lot that feels like it happened a while ago. So
it's true. And the Orioles are maybe not in contention for a playoff spot, but they're involved in the wild card race and the division race a little bit in some way, shape, or form. So that's
because we're
fun.
Playing all those other teams who are involved in
exactly. They have all playoff teams, the contenders apart from the Rangers series left on the schedule. So that makes it exciting, at least. Something.
Yeah. As to me, I am going to interject myself. I just want to say by far the most unfortunate development since we last recorded is that the St. Louis Cardinals reeled off 10 straight and just once again are being the Cardinals and just somehow ending up in the playoffs after being like legitimately a pretty mediocre team the entire rest of the year. And I'm pretty tired of it. I respect Adam Wainwright. You know, he's been great. Uncle Charlie himself. But yeah, I mean, I'm so tired of the Cardinals. They just need to be bad. And one of my good friends, ironically also named Charlie. I mean, he's a Cardinals fan. I went to see a game with him a little while ago. And he's just been insufferable. And, you know, he's talking about how this isn't a very good Cardinals team. And he's like, well, you know, like playoff teams don't lose to this because we saw them lose to the Pirates. And he just, you know, he says all this stuff and it's like, dude, you've been in the playoffs, you know, 9 of 10 years for the last 30 years. Like, I don't want to hear it. I'm tired of it. And here they are again, reeling off. I think it's at 12 in a row now.
It's just like there's got to be like a playoff fatigue. I feel like, okay, yeah, we're in it again. Great. Like, I mean, how what they've won how many 2 or 3 World Series in the past since 2010 or something. And I mean, I don't know, I guess it's been 5 or 6 years. I think they won in 2011. Maybe you're right, but
yeah, I think that's the only one.
Yeah, okay, so I don't know, it just feels like they're always in the World Series, in the playoffs, and it's like, yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's got to be a fatigue associated with that, but I guess it does probably. I'm fatigued of the Cardinals, right? Exactly. So yeah, I don't know, but how they do these sorts of marvelous magic tricks is pretty remarkable. Before the season, I saw a stat they had a 2% chance of making the playoffs, and it's 74 now. So.
Well, they've also basically ended the season of everybody's second favorite team, the San Diego Padres. They're 5 games back in the wild card now. It ain't happening. Manny Machado's yelling at Fernando Tatis Jr. in the dugout. It's a disaster. And those Padres have so many former Orioles or Orioles coaches or whatever on that team that it's kind of a bummer because those are kind of the spiritual Orioles that they're not going to go to the postseason either, unfortunately.
It is kind of funny to think that you know, Manny went over there and he got Bobby Dickerson hired. He got Wayne Kirby hired. You know, he just
Ryan Flaherty's on the coaching staff.
That's right. he was the one who was pushing Tatis away.
That's wild.
Yeah. I mean, he was like, no, these are good people. These are the people that I came up with, and I know they got some good stuff to teach the rest of these guys. So
yeah,
I support it.
When you have that sort of contract, I guess you can do those sorts of things.
You've got some sway, as they say.
Yeah. Right.
Oh, one day the Orioles will be there. yelling at each other in the dugout as they miss a playoff spot by 5 games.
Yeah. And the Padres, yeah, right. And the Padres will be back. I mean, long term, like there's no real structural damage to their long-term plan. So
they have dealt with a lot of pitching injuries too.
Yeah.
And you got to think, next year they're going to have Mike Clevenger come back, who wasn't even a factor this year because of Tommy John. They're going to be plenty dangerous for years to come.
Yeah, and they're a lot of fun. So bummer that they're not going to go, but this is not a Padres podcast yet. Maybe we'll switch over. We'll see. I would have to learn a lot about the Padres.
If we have a couple more years like this year, then
it's true. All right, well let's get into things, because as Jesse said, we do have a lot to discuss. So the first thing is something that just came along the Twitter timeline right before we got on here. Eli noticed it. I did not, so I'm glad Eli was scanning his notifications. But Brandon Hyde, the Orioles manager, there's been a lot of speculation here for a few months now whether he would be the guy going into 2022. Apparently, the Orioles decided he was going to be the guy in 2022 a year ago because he signed an extension. Eli, you read the news story. It was sometime last year in 2020 they agreed to this extension. Is that right?
Yeah, I just saw a Dan Connolly tweet. It wasn't a story or anything, but
Okay.
Yeah, apparently there was a super quiet hush-hush extension last year, and that just makes no sense to me. Yeah.
It's weird, like, because Elias has done like press conferences this year, and he's been asked specifically, is Brandon Hyde under contract for next year? And he's always said time and time again, like, I'm not going to comment on another person's employment status or a member of the front office or the coaching staff. But it's just like, an extension is such a positive thing all around. Why would you not say like, hey, Brandon Hyde got an extension? It's very strange.
Right. Well, what could be the incentive for keeping that quiet? I mean, like, I don't know. Then it makes me think, okay, did the players know? Did the rest of the coaching staff know? And I would hope that they did, but I just really don't understand. If you want a team to really rally around somebody, if you want fans to, really dig in and support this guy, like say, yeah, we support him too. He's going to be here. He's with us for the next couple of years. Like, I just don't get it.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty strange. At least that side of it is odd that they went about it that way, because a lot of teams hold like press conferences when they give extensions to coaches, but the Orioles did not go that way. Anyway, kind of aside from the way the Orioles handled it, let's kind of talk about whether we think Brandon Hyde is the guy to be the Orioles manager for 2022. Jesse, you were kind of, when we were sort of discussing this real quick before we got on, you are a little perplexed why they would give him the contract. I guess you haven't been totally surprised by Brandon Hyde's performance as manager, but do you kind of want to just like, chime in on what your thoughts are on him receiving the 1-year extension?
Yeah, just to your earlier points also, like, although Brandon Hyde has not yet gotten the Baltimore fan base love that Buck Showalter has gotten, I think people in Baltimore fans generally like him, just like they generally like most of the players on the team. So, yeah, I mean, it is kind of like a weird thing how they went about this process. As far as, thinking about it a little bit more, I mean, I really think what this is, they signed him. I think the idea was, we're going to see what you can do. Hopefully you're a young manager. Maybe you could get the most, or, kind of push some of the young kids to their limits and kind of get the most out of them. And maybe they overperform a little bit. I think the idea at this point is that, right now we kind of need him as a caretaker for a little while longer. And that became apparent to the Orioles that they weren't going to be ready to compete at that time. So rather than bringing in a new manager, one that you're claiming is going to be here to have these guys win, and this is the guy that's going to go win us a World Series, you don't want to bring that guy in and then have the Orioles lose 100 games, right? You don't want that to be the situation. So, because the timeline got pushed back a little bit, it didn't even get pushed back a little bit. It just became more apparent that this is definitively the timeline. So let's just give him another year where the Orioles can struggle. And then when we really want to start making our push to advance and to really steadily improve, then on that year, we'll go sign the guy we really want. I don't think that it is an indication that the Orioles want to commit to him long term or have him be the manager of the future. I'm not saying that's definitely off the table from the Orioles perspective, but I think it's very unlikely. And I don't despise Brandon Hyde, but he doesn't seem to me to be the guy that's going to win a World Series with us. So that's how it feels to me.
Yeah, so I guess, the phrase we always use is this guy on the next good Orioles team? So Jesse, your answer is that Brandon Hyde is not on the next good Orioles team?
Correct.
Wow.
Eli, you seem to have a different opinion.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, the big thing to me is that, like, why not give him another year? I mean, the first thing is that this was a guy who was pretty highly coveted. A lot of people wanted to interview him as he was coming out of Chicago. He was known as a player development kind of guy. He was, really good with younger dudes, helping them find a routine, helping them understand what it's like to be in the bigs. And so as he was coming out of his time with the Cubs, I think a lot of people were really interested in him. And so, I think he was a good get for the Orioles. And I mean, the bigger thing to me is that, like, what could you possibly evaluate him on? Like, people talk about his bullpen decisions sometimes, and that's, one thing that people go to, like lineup decisions, bullpen decisions. But I mean, I'm like literally in this second, I'm watching Eric Handhold give up a 2-run bomb to Andrew McCutchen. Like, what is he supposed to do with guys like Eric Handhold in the pen? It's like Keegan Aiken goes out and gives 5 1/3 scoreless, and then Eric Handhold is who we got in the pen.
Right.
I don't look at this as a situation where Brandon Hyde has had any ability to influence this team in the positive or negative, right? Because the team's so abysmal. It just is an unfortunate truth. All of those writers, everyone who was taking a dump on us, probably like a little bit undeservedly, but the team is bad. Like it is what it is. The team is bad. And so I don't look at like our performance as an indictment on Brandon Hyde in any way, shape, or form. I think, he's done what he can. I think that we've seen some seriously positive developments from some young people. I think Mountcastle, I think Hayes, I think Mullins, Means isn't too young, but he's relatively inexperienced. I think that there's, some good things to hold on to. And I think that there's no reason that Brandon Hyde can't continue to be a positive influence. We've seen him be willing to fight for these guys. We've seen him open his mouth. We've seen him stick up for people. We've seen him just stand tall through like a 19-game losing streak and say, I'm proud of my guys for continuing to work through this. Like, I just think that Brandon Hyde is I think he's the right guy for this moment. And I don't think we have any kind of information to evaluate whether he's the right guy for our next moment yet. So I guess like I was more just surprised by Jesse saying no. I'm not sure I'm ready to say yes, but I think like maybe next year when the Orioles turn into a 65-70 win team, hopefully, that I think we'll get a lot more information. Hopefully we'll have a more steady bullpen. Hopefully some of those young arms will be up and we'll have slightly like more stability in the rotation. Hopefully we'll go sign a couple guys to just stabilize our lineup, stabilize the rotation, whatever. And then I think we can start to evaluate Brandon Hyde's decision-making because, we've been talking about it all year. It's just about getting to the next day at this point. There is no way to evaluate what a good job and what a bad job is. None of us could have done any better this year. And that's a given, but like, I don't think Buck Showalter could have, I don't think there's anyone out there like Jace Tingler, whoever you want to say, Dave Roberts, whatever. It's just a bad team, and that just is what it is.
It is a bad team, but I don't think that like exempts him from like some sort of assessment of the situation. We all talked about how, Freddie Galvis was hitting 2 and then 4 and then 3 in our lineup, I mean, and that's just one like a minor example. But we can still like evaluate. I mean, we're all watching what happens. We all see everything that happens on the field. Like, yes, even though a good manager could maybe at most squeeze out what I don't know. Maybe in an ideal great situation, this is a 65 win team, like with some minor miracles happening in the process. But so I get that, it's a bad team. The talent isn't there overall. I understand all that, but we can also pay attention to like what Hyde is doing, and we still need to assess him on his merits. And you do point to some good things that have happened on his watch, the emergence of some key cornerstone players, hopefully, that have, come about this year. Mullins, Mountcastle, Means, to a lesser extent, obviously. And then, you could, well, just because he was good last year, and he'd kind of been, I was just trying to say he didn't fully emerge like this year. I mean, he did for the most part, but he had been trending in the right
direction. Brandon Hyde.
Right. But yes, I understand that. The assessment just needs to come in. How much did Brandon Hyde have to do with that? How much credit does he deserve for that? Those type of questions need to be sort of asked and gone through. But I just, my ultimate point though is that, we, even though we have a bad team, that doesn't mean that we can't look for certain indicators of what's happening on the team to measure Hyde's performance.
Yeah, so you used the word exempt, and I just like, I guess I'm going to cue in on that. I mean, I don't think he's exempt from evaluation. Like, we should always be evaluating. We should always be looking at him. I'm just saying that, like, to me, I don't feel that I can tell anything meaningful in his performance as a manager from what we have been seeing this year and, over the previous couple of years. I just like, I don't think it's informative in telling me whether he's going to be able to lead a team to the World Series. That's what I'm trying to get at. It's not necessarily that we shouldn't be looking for that information. It's that I think when we look for it, the cupboard is bare, as Dan Connolly would say.
Yeah, well, and I think also like the Orioles maybe are acknowledging that a couple things. They're probably acknowledging, yes, we haven't really given Brandon the best ingredients to cook with here, but also like the nice ingredients are getting close to being ready to cook with. I don't know. The metaphor is losing its way a little bit, but you know what I'm trying to say? Like they're admitting that it's been kind of a disaster so far. So we know that there's going to be some of the big time prospects, Adley, Rutschman, Grayson, Rodriguez. They're going to be up next year. DL Hall, possibly. Like these are the big guns that you probably wouldn't trust them to just anybody. So they must have some sort of feeling that Brandon Hyde can get the job done and nurture young talent to a degree. At the same time, the performance has not been great on the field these last few years. You would expect a little bit more. If you look at like the Pythagorean wins losses, the Orioles have been worse than what their Pythagorean win-loss record says they should be every single year under Brandon Hyde. And, that's just based on, run differential, which if the Orioles get blown out by 10 runs and then win 3 one-run games, it's going to look like a bad, run differential, even though they've won 3 out of 4 games. You know what I mean? So it's not everything, but I don't know. I'm fine with a 1-year extension. I think it's honestly like the perfect outcome where you give him another year. Who are the Orioles going to sign this offseason anyway to be the manager? I'm not so sure that was going to happen regardless. So I think it's a good outcome. I'm not sold either way on Brandon Hyde. If I had to pick a way, I had to commit to a way, I would say Brandon Hyde is not the Orioles manager the next time they are good or ready to be really good. But again, he's got next year with hopefully a better talent, more talented roster to prove me wrong. So we'll see. But yeah, hopefully we got through all that. We've had some technical difficulties here. So maybe you just heard the last 5 minutes and not the whole 20 minutes we just talked about it. We'll see. Kind of staying on the Brandon Hyde train for a second, because we didn't get to talk about this because we didn't record last week, was the whole Robbie Ray, Brandon Hyde drama where it looked like they were kind of chirping at each other. Robbie Ray was staring at the Orioles dugout because he wasn't happy about something. Then Brandon Hyde kind of let him know about it by saying a few select words that would not be able to be shown on network television. But you could hear him on the Masson feed pretty clearly. So I don't know. After the game, Hyde did apologize for whatever that's worth, and Ray pretty much was like not hearing it. What seems to have happened is that Robbie Ray was not happy that the Orioles were laying off of his slider so much. Robbie Ray's had a really good season, probably going to get some AL Cy Young votes. And I guess he was assuming the Orioles were stealing signs or knew something about when he was throwing a slider. And Brandon Hyde was basically telling him like, no, that wasn't happening. So why don't you focus on throwing the ball? Eli, I don't know if you had any kind of initial reaction to the whole interaction between those two men.
I had two things. So I guess the Orioles actually swung at Robbie Ray's slider in that start at a higher clip than his yearly average. So, the evidence for it wasn't that great. Like clearly, in those first couple innings, when the Orioles touched him up a little bit, I think it's like, I don't think we had his signs. I don't think he was tipping pitches. I think they just went up there with a good approach and realized, hey, his slider's his best pitch. Maybe we should lay off of that and make him throw us a good fastball. So, do I think the Orioles were doing anything? Quite frankly, I don't, especially because by the end of the day, they had swung at this thing more than the rest of the league had over the course of the year. So I think it was kind of like a weak argument. Like the Orioles put some good at-bats together in the beginning. But as to Brandon Hyde, I don't know. This is one of the things that I look at and that makes me say, like, this is the perfect guy to have leading this team right now. Because, the Orioles are so unbelievably bad. And, he is still coming to the park with passion. He's still ready to compete. He's like, he was ready, if Robbie Ray would have charged at him, he would have picked him up and thrown him, back into the clubhouse. Like, Brandon Hyde was like ready to stand on the top step of that thing, make himself known, let him know that the Orioles were not going to be like, I don't know, just not going to be pushed around, and that, like, we are worthy of something. We're here. We're competing every day. And it's as simple as that. And a lot of people were like making fun of him online for that. They're like, dude, you're leading like a 90 loss team right now. Da, da, da. And I mean, to me, I love that. Like, to me, somebody who comes to the park every day and is ready to compete and is ready to put on for his team, that's a special thing. And I can tell you from years and years and years of baseball that, like, those are the types of guys that you absolutely feed off of. And the team feeds off of that energy. And, like, I'm not going to say the Orioles have been spectacular, but like, I think they're closing out the year at a better clip than they, did the first half of it. We've been playing like close to 500 ball the last couple of weeks. And like, I think that maintaining like any kind of morale when you're in the midst of 100 plus loss season is incredibly difficult to do. And here we are in late September, and I guess that was more mid-September at that point, but he's like, he's ready to go to war for this team, and he clearly cares a lot about the guys. And so that's why, like, I think he's definitely the right guy for this moment right here, to carry the team through these difficult times. And I think he's worth just at least seeing what happens when we have some more talent on the team for him to play with.
Yeah, I think most people seem to come down sort of on that side of the Brandon Hyde discussion. But I mean, specifically on the Robbie Ray incident, I find it hard to, support what Robbie Ray is saying. I mean, my first thought was the Orioles had just faced Robbie Ray like 10 days, a week or 10 days before that. They had just seen him. And like, the Orioles watch tape too. They read scouting reports, like, and yeah, you are a Cy Young candidate, but you're not going to always have your best stuff. Camden Yards is a tough park to pitch in. The Orioles offense is not inept. Like, the Orioles offense is around average, maybe a little bit below average. Like, you had a bad day, man. It's okay. You can get lit up every now and then and not flip out about it. But I do agree that Brandon Hyde kind of standing up for his guys was nice, because a lot of the discourse online was just so insane, as if like, because you're better at something means that you can never be wrong, or that Robbie Ray couldn't have been wrong in that situation, was absolutely ridiculous. So yeah, I don't know. I have nothing else to add. I just agree with what you said, Eli. Jesse, I don't know if you had a different read on the situation.
No, I mean, I think it makes a lot of sense. I mean, right, to assume that a team has your signs based upon that little evidence, right? I mean, yeah, the guys could have looked at some tape, figured something out. Maybe he was getting into a pattern, with his pitch sequences, right? There's a whole bunch, and every third slider that gets thrown, they're taking it. Like Eli said, though, the numbers weren't even there to support that. But no, I mean, the one thing I will comment on though is like, okay, Brandon Hyde apologized after the game for his language and stuff like that. I mean, it makes no difference to me. I don't care when these, when the managers go out and argue with the umpires all the time, they're cursing at them left and right. Brandon Hyde is going to like continue to curse. He's not going to like stop cursing, even though he apologized for cursing and said he shouldn't have done that. Like, I don't quite understand why he says that exactly, but like, I don't really have any problem with him doing that. And
I think he was saying like the language got picked up on the mics and stuff, and typically like it's a family friendly sort of product that professional baseball pushes and all that stuff. So I get it from that perspective. But yeah, I mean, you're right. Anybody that knows anything about like not even professional sports, just like being an adult and competing in a thing, like that's just kind of what happened. It's dumb to an extent, but like it's not a big deal.
Yeah. So that was just my main comment on the situation. I mean, look, I'm not gonna like be that angry at Robbie Ray either. Like he's frustrated out there. His team is in the middle of a wild card race. Like, I'm not saying what he did was like, right, or that he was accurate in his assessment, but I also don't like now hate Robbie Ray because he got annoyed and probably, had these ideas in his head. Like, it's fine. We can move on, I think. So.
Yeah, but we won't forgive him for how tight his pants are. That's unforgivable. We can all agree on that.
Definitely, I don't know, some sort of violation.
Tanner Scott does it too, though. So the Orioles have a guy with equally tight pants. So
I don't know.
People in glass houses.
I think Tanner Scott's a little like, I don't know if he's slimmer, but it's not as offensive to me when Tanner
Robbie Ray's got a little bit of like the muffin top going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Robbie Ray's a better pitcher. So
it's significantly.
All right, let's talk about some players on the Orioles roster instead of the coaching staff. Ryan Mountcastle continues to have a really good season. He broke Cal Ripken Jr.'s Orioles record for home runs hit in a rookie season. That was 28. Mountcastle has now hit 30 home runs at the time of our recording. And now he's starting to get a little bit of rookie of the year buzz. I mean, he's had some murmurs for parts of the season, but then he struggled so badly to start the year that kind of went away. I think people generally don't think he's going to win the award, but I mean, he's kind of past Adley Garcia now, the Rangers guy who was kind of leading the talk through the first half of the season. I think he's got a chance. It might not be to come in first place, but I think he's got a decent chance to get a couple of votes. Do either of you guys have any particular thoughts, any, hot takes on the rookie of the year race, Jess?
The main thing from my perspective and why I think your assessment is right that he's probably not going to win is just the defense, right? Like he is just a guy that provides no defensive value. And even though he probably has the best offensive numbers of the three of them, just his inability to play defense is really going to hurt him. And I think that's probably why he's not going to end up winning. If we were looking at just offensive numbers, I think he'd probably be the favorite to win it, but that's not how it works. And I also think the other thing that's working against him is Rosarena got a lot of name recognition, was playing in the World Series last year. A lot, he's a very popular player. So I think all that is going to work in his favor as well. So
when you said the three, you have Adley Garcia, Ryan Mountcastle, and Randy Rosarena as like the three contenders.
Correct. Yeah. I don't see any other possibility really.
I've heard Bobby Dahlbeck get thrown around a little bit, but
he's gotten hot recently, but he has not put a full season together, so I don't think he's going to get it.
Okay. And the pitching, I'm not really as familiar with any pitchers that are really contenders, but
yeah, I don't think there really are any.
Okay. All right. So Eli, do you kind of have similar thoughts with the Mountcastle situation?
Yeah, I think that Mountcastle is far enough ahead of Garcia offensively to put him into second place. But like Mountcastle's OPS right now is 807. Randy Arozarena's is 799.
Mm-hmm.
But, like if you look in terms of just straight WAR and, people always say, the Cy Young, the MVP, the Rookie of the Year shouldn't all be decided by WAR. But like
Right.
WAR is a good quantifier of overall performance. So we've got Arozarena at 3.5 and Mountcastle at 1.0. Like Arozarena's put up 3 times the amount of value that Mountcastle has per this measure, just purely because, he's an asset in the field. He goes out there, he's pretty quick. Mountcastle has better power numbers, but Garcia's got pretty much the same power numbers that Mountcastle does. I think he's also got 30 bombs. I think he's also got 83 RBIs or whatever it is. And so I think it just, it kind of nets out that Arozarena is the best mix of both. He's got that defensive capability. He is like only marginally worse offensively than Mountcastle is. And I guess I should also say, like, I think that Mountcastle, in the long run, if he sustains what he has done over this second half, I think he will be a substantially better offensive player than Arozarena will be. That's not to say that Arozarena is bad in any way, shape, or form. He's obviously incredible. But yeah, I think Mountcastle's got more future impact, and that's mostly like if he just stays consistent throughout the course of his career from what he's doing right now. Obviously, he was slumping earlier in the year, but yeah, I don't know. My money is on Arozarena. He's also caught fire in the second half, and he provides that defensive value. So I'm right with you guys.
Just to correct one thing, Arozarena only has 19 home runs this year, so he's trailing him by a substantial lot.
I was saying that Garcia's tied with him.
Oh,
yeah. I'll look it up to check myself, but
something else that might be interesting to see how like voters deal with it is Wander Franco. Like he's not been up the whole season, but since he's been up, he's been really good. But he's only played in 60 games, so he won't get it. But I think he'll get some down ballot votes, so that could be interesting to watch.
Yeah, I just double checked myself. Adley Garcia has 30 home runs and 83 RBIs, the same as Mountcastle does. So if I said Arozarena earlier, that was a slip of the tongue. But yeah, I was talking Garcia.
Another Oriole rookie that we should mention, because I think we kind of forget he's a rookie, is Ramon Urias. I mean, I think Mountcastle's gonna. I think if you look at WAR, Ramon Urias is probably worth more than Mountcastle is this year, just because the defense we talked about, and he's been pretty solid offensively all year. The home run, the batting line isn't as sexy as Mountcastle's will be. So I'm sure he will not get as many votes, if any votes, like Mountcastle does. But still, worth noting, Ramon Urias has had a nice little rookie season.
Funny you mentioned him. He's actually almost twice as valuable as Mountcastle. He's got 1.9 WAR to Mountcastle's 1.0. And yeah, his OPS is only. So another interesting thing about that is he's done that in only 85 games. Mountcastle's played in like 130 or so.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, his OPS is only like trailing by 30 points or so from Mountcastle's.
Yeah, heck of a season.
Yeah,
I think
interesting point.
He's gonna be on this team next year. So yeah, positive sign there. Another young player that hopefully is part of the next good Orioles team is Heston Kerstad, the Orioles top draft pick from the 2020 draft. He has not played a professional game yet, as he's been dealing with myocarditis as a result of a viral infection. We still don't know if that was COVID or not, but he's been on the shelf for a long time now. Last month, Mike Elias had said that he had gone down to Sarasota. Kerstad had to restart some physical activities. He didn't explain exactly what those were, but I would imagine they were, weightlifting, sprints, some cardio stuff. And then yesterday, we're recording this on Wednesday. On Tuesday, Kerstad posted a video on his social media of him taking batting practice in Sarasota, which is like the most mundane baseball highlight, whatever you could ever imagine. But I'm pretty excited to have seen it. I was like, when I saw that at first, I was like, oh my, the Orioles are back, baby. World Series 2024 is on. So I don't know. I mean, I feel like this is a huge step, but Eli, am I maybe reading a little bit too much into a video of a guy taking like light hacks in the cage?
Yeah. I mean, like, you know, when the guy's been shut down for a year and a half, it's impossible to say that's not a huge step. Like, I'm happy for him. And kind of an interesting point that literally just came into my head is, you know, the knock on Kerstad is that his swing is too long. You know, he has the tendency to like overswing a little bit, and he gets long and he strikes out as a result. And this tells me like he hasn't, you know, if he hasn't been swinging a bat really in a year and a half, the Orioles might have a chance to play with his swing a little bit, maybe use his natural talents coupled with some like swing refinement voodoo magic and come out with something pretty sweet.
Yeah, I'm ecstatic. Jess, maybe for you, I'll ask, you know, what sort of like timetable are you putting on Heston Kerstad for getting back into certainly not an Orioles major league game, but like, do you expect him to be ready like start of next season to be, you know, in a Shorebirds game?
I would say it'd probably take a few months after that. I would think. It's. I think it's going to be a little while. But I think this is definitely a positive step for him. And of course, I mean, yeah, it's been his career so far. Well, I don't want to say it like that, but his injuries have been extremely frustrating and discouraging. Not necessarily discouraging from the perspective of his long-term potential necessarily, but just discouraging as, you know, this is a guy everybody was so excited for, and he's just had some pretty big setbacks so far in his short career. So no, this is definitely a positive step forward, I think.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we'll see. He's got a full off season here, hopefully to get healthy. If, you know, you want to look at a comp, Eduardo Rodriguez missed all of last season with the myocarditis from COVID-19. And then he has pitched, I think, most of the season. I think he's had some injury things, but not heart issues during the season, right. Which is, you know, obviously health, internal health is the most important thing. Baseball career is secondary. But I'm hopeful that a fully healthy off season, he can come to Sarasota in the spring, have a normal spring training, and maybe get into some games with Delmarva that first month or two. That would be super encouraging. And based on how some of the young guys have progressed this year with, you know, Jordan Westberg's played at 3 levels, Gunnar Henderson's played at 3 levels, you know, a healthy Heston Kerstad, you think would dominate at Delmarva and probably be playing at Aberdeen and maybe even Bowie if he's healthy. But that's a big if. This is just a good first step. Somebody else who's having a nice little September here is Austin Hayes, who prior to us recording had been on a 17-game hitting streak that was broken, you know, maybe a couple days after we recorded our last episode. But Austin Hayes, I think I texted you guys the other day that I think Austin Hayes is good now. And, you know, part of that is a really good September, but just in general, when he's been healthy this year, it's been like pretty good defense, decent power. He's hitting the crap out of lefties all of a sudden. Like I'm back on the Austin Hayes train, and him and Cedric Mullins together, the Orioles have something going there that I'm pretty excited about. Eli, you weren't as excited because his on-base percentage is still lagging a little bit. Is that your only concern with Austin Hayes, or do you have some other concerns with his game?
I think that was actually Jesse who said that.
Oh, was it Jesse? I'm sorry.
Yeah, but the one thing that I will point out is that Austin Hayes in his career has an 879 OPS in August. In September. The best besides that is 789 in May. Like, so, you know, he's always been really good in September for whatever reason. Like, I think when he first came up to the bigs, I think he like came up in August or something, and then he exploded in September of 20, whatever it was. And we were all super excited then. I don't know what it is, but I think he just plays really well in September. And like, I don't know. I don't have any reason to think that, like, he has been pretty good this year. And I don't think that there's any reason to say he's not, the right fielder or the left fielder on the next Florida Orioles team. I don't think there's a reason to say that yet, but he has a history of performing well in September. And so I'm not like looking at this month as an indicator of sustained overall success for a couple more years. Like, I think that I don't know. I guess like he's got a 994 OPS and in this month, and the best besides that was also in May and also 789. That's ridiculous. That's the same as his career average in May. But yeah, I just think like, I'm not sure what it is. Maybe he sees the end of the year coming and he gets amped up. Maybe it's some combination of like, like the war of attrition. He gets hurt during the year. He battles through some stuff, and then it all kind of comes together in September every year for whatever reason. Like, whatever it is, I don't think that this is a perfect indication that he is now good. He's playing incredibly well, and like all the credit in the world to him for that. But it doesn't make me a believer yet. I want to see it in like June when everybody is starting to wear down and pitchers are hitting mid-season form and all that stuff.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I think injuries for him have always been kind of a big thing, and we know he had the hamstring thing early in the season, so potentially maybe he's got that sorted out now. But yeah, I'm not too sure. Jess, I know you've been kind of a skeptic of Hayes for a long time.
Yeah, I have. I mean, kind of like what Eli said, I think I'm going to echo a lot of Eli's sentiments. I think a healthy Austin Hayes is a Major League Baseball player. I do think that whether he's a starting every day in the lineup, plays 140 games a season, I don't know about that. Very possibly he's a platoon guy. And you work with him with that, right? He splits time in left. He'll split a little time in right, play a game in center here and there, on occasion. I don't know. What I do think, I think it kind of speaks mainly the hot month, I think speaks to just kind of what he is as a player. I think he's naturally going to be a guy that catches fire for certain periods of time and then is going to cool off. And one of the things I think he needs really to do is just to become more consistent, over the course, because he has some lows, which can be pretty low. And in order to be sort of, I think his next step is to try to establish himself as an everyday player. And the first step of that is being healthy. But then on top of that, trying to be consistent, trying to, be able to hit, both lefties and righties. Right. So I think he has a ways to go to prove that he is an everyday starting Major League Baseball player. But I do think he is a major leaguer if he stays healthy. And that's a good thing from the Orioles perspective. The fact that we know that despite all his struggles this year, he does have 20 home runs. Of course, the concerning thing is the on base percentage, and he doesn't walk very often. And that is kind of, he's had the experience kind of where at this point you kind of would like to see him have better plate discipline, draw a few more walks here and there. He's kind of at that point. So if he's not going to kind of develop that part of his game, and if he's not going to draw walks, I think it's going to be a lot more difficult for him to play every day. And to be the contributor that it seems like he at least is capable of on a major league team. So,
right. I mean, yeah, we're still kind of it feels like Austin Hayes has been around for forever, and it's because he sort of has been. And I think his first major league manager was Buck Showalter. I think he came up in that 2018 season. So he's been around for a while.
He actually had 20 games in 2017. I'm looking at this now. And then
okay,
did not play in
2017.
2018. Yeah.
That's right. But yeah, so he's got only 194 total career games. So he's only played a little over like one full major league season. So he's not a rookie clearly, but we're still kind of learning what he can do. And I think the organization is learning how to handle him too. And I think we've sort of maybe seen a blueprint for that this year, where for a while, Brandon Hyde was kind of treating him like a platoon guy, giving him days off. And he sort of flourished in that handling of him. And also as a guy who's going to get older, he needs to learn his body a little bit, either what he needs to do to prepare or what he needs to do to like pull up a little bit and not go balls to the wall every single play. Something, because this version of Austin Hayes, yes, it's buoyed by a very good September, but he's been with 2.6 wins this year, which is that's an everyday Major League Baseball player on any team.
Yeah.
And his on-base percentage is not great, but you would hope that the team is, Adley, Rutschman, maybe Gunnar Henderson, Jordan Westberg, hopefully eventually Heston, Kerstad. These are the guys, Mountcastle. These are the guys that are going to be like the heart of the lineup. And then if Austin Hayes is like your 6-7 guy, then you're not too upset about a 3 or 4 on base. You know what I mean? So it's all relative to what his role on the team is going to be. But yeah, I've been encouraged by it, and it could certainly all go the wrong way really quickly, but trying to stay positive here.
Yeah.
And unlike Mountcastle, the one thing that he really does have going for him is he plays stellar defense. So he has a great arm, and he covers a lot of ground in the outfield. So that's gonna perpetually work in his favor.
Yeah, I will also throw out that, like, despite the low OBP, like, his slugging is good enough to the point where he's actually 4% better than league average as a hitter. So, in terms of OPS plus. So there is, like, there's still offensive value there if he can do that and be the good defensive contributor who can, give your center fielder a couple days off, who can, play really any position in the outfield and do so really well. He's got a solid arm. Like, that's an everyday player. So I guess then to me, and I'm kind of going back on what I said earlier, but to me, it's if the dude can stay healthy.
Right.
And, this year he's only put up 120 games again. Like, no, you don't go out and seek that from a player. You go out and you look for somebody who can, who you can count on for 140, 145 games in a year to only hit the 10-day IL once. And then that's all you have to deal with for the rest of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Somebody who has not had injury concerns this year, which is, sort of part of how incredible his season has been, is Cedric Mullins, who, as we record, is 1 home run shy of being the first 30 home run, 30 stolen base Oriole in history. He got his 30th stolen base a couple days ago, and we're thinking he's going to get that 30th home run, although it sort of looked like he maybe already had hit the 30th home run on Tuesday night. He hit a ball that went just foul, apparently, although there are some online who think it took a slight deflection off of the Citizens Bank Park right field foul pole. I didn't see it in real time. Did either of you guys see it happen in real time?
Not in real time, but I did watch some replays. And
what's your thought?
It's a really difficult thing. So this might be too much to say, but I'm going to do it anyways. I saw this little like animation one time, and 2 balls crossed each other, and then they played the exact same thing, and they just made a sound the second they touched each other. And then your brain deciphers that as they came together and then they bounced back apart. And so kind of the idea is, like, if we're looking at this and, you're like watching the shadow of the ball on the foul pole, and, the shadow kind of comes towards it and then the shadow goes away, it like looks, is that my brain tricking me that it actually did deflect off the thing? And I don't know. I started like playing these games with myself, trying to figure it out. Naturally, Orioles Twitter pointed out that there was a much, much clearer stolen base that was taken away from him earlier in the year. and they're like, the MLB's doing everything they can to keep him from getting 30-30, But all that aside, I mean, we've got some games left. I definitely think that Cedric Mullins is the Orioles' first 30-30 guy of this Baltimore Orioles franchise, at least.
Yeah. Jesse, did you see the video of the home run that wasn't?
I saw it live. I was watching the game, and I texted you guys immediately because I was excited. The announcers were convinced that it had hit the foul pole. Of course, the Oriole announcers I'm talking about. But I could not, whatever they saw, I didn't happen to see. So I just really could not tell one way or the other. I don't know about that. What I will say is if for some reason he does not get it, well, then I'm going to be like really, really, frustrated at the situation that one didn't count. Like, I don't know. I mean, I'm really excited for him to do this. I know you talk about Tyler, like we've talked about like the Hall of Fame, and we talk about the magical 500 home runs or the 600 home runs, and you kind of point out that, well, these are just like round, even, nice numbers, that are easy for people to deal with. Is a 29-29 season that much worse than a 30-30 season? No, not really at all. Don't get me wrong. But just because for baseball fans, 30-30 is sort of a magical thing. And of course, Acuna last year almost had 40-40, which is just ridiculous. But the fact that, 2 years ago, the fact that, thank you. The fact that Mullins has a chance to do this and to make it a nice, even 30-30 number that everybody can recognize, everybody can identify, he will get the sort of credibility that comes along with sort of putting that season together, even though he should already have it, whether he hits one more home run or not before the end of the year. Just kind of how it goes. He will get some sort of esteem and some sort of respect and credibility that by getting that one more home run. And I so I'm definitely pulling for him to do it. Even if he doesn't, like, definitely we know internally, nothing is really taken away from the season. But he has the chance to be, I think it's the 43rd, 47th, something like that. Player, he's going to be the first Oriole, but like the 40-something player to ever do it. So that puts him in very elite company. I mean, if he's has an accomplishment only 50 other players, less than 50 players in Major League Baseball have ever done, that's pretty special.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's been like a little over 20,000 MLB players ever, which that's a small number. If you think like of all the people in the world, 20,000 people have played Major League Baseball. And then Cedric Mullins is of one of 50 that have done this, it is impressive. And like, I sometimes have to like stop me, like 30 home runs. That's a lot of home runs for any position, let alone ridiculous. Like a little center fielder who power was never his thing. He was probably like a 10 to 15 power home run guy, like as a prospect, you know what I mean? Like that was his ceiling.
He's tiny.
I don't even think he was that. Yeah. I always heard about him as like just a slap hitter and absolutely nothing more. Yeah.
It's crazy. But, like him and Mountcastle have the same number of home runs, and Mountcastle's like a power prospect and Mullins is a defense first center fielder. It's just wild. It's wild.
Yeah. I need to throw out one other thing that I saw today. You guys were mentioning, less than 50 people had done this. The season that he's putting together, and it was the stats they cherry picked, and don't get me wrong, I'm glad they cherry picked, but the stats they cherry picked were doubles, triples, home runs, and steals, I think. And it was, I think Cedric has like 36 doubles, 5 triples, the 29 home runs, and the 30 or 31 steals at this point. And there had only been 13 people who had done that in MLB history. And the last one was Mookie Betts in his MVP season in 2018 with the Red Sox. I mean, just like, what we are seeing, we are undoubtedly, and like we talk about it every single podcast that we record, but we are all taking this for granted just because the rest of the team is so unbelievably bad. And like, the rest of the nation, the rest of baseball fans across the world, like the amount that we are taking it for granted, them like 10 times more. I mean, like, this dude is not getting the recognition he deserves. He's not getting like the teammates he deserves, like the performance around him that he deserves. This is a pretty historic season, and the guy has been absolutely incredible throughout. You just gotta love it.
Yeah, I mean, I do think I don't see how he wouldn't get a Silver Slugger award. I think he's going to be a Gold Glove finalist. He's not going to get MVP, but I think he'll get some down ballot. He might get like a 10th place MVP vote or something like that. I think that's reasonable. Because it's going to be Ohtani and Vlad Guerrero, and probably Marcus Semien will probably get an MVP vote or something, guys like that. But Mullins, I think he's going to get some love in the postseason awards or whatever they're called. So, it's incredible. And hopefully that will garner him some of the attention that he does deserve. You're right, Eli. Somebody else that Jesse, I think, wanted to talk about as sort of an award winning level talent, or did Eli want to do it? I'm sorry. You guys, I get you guys all confused now.
We look a lot alike. My hair is starting to grow out, and so I'm starting to like blend into Jesse.
That's why you look alike. Yeah, the hair. Eli rather wanted to talk about one player in particular on the infield who he doesn't think is going to win a Gold Glove, but has played at a Gold Glove level for part of this season. Do you want to kind of tell the folks who you're thinking about, Eli?
Yeah, I'm not sure I'd go Gold Glove level.
Well, look, I had to do a segue.
I know, but I just like I didn't want to put my name behind that.
That's fair.
I think like I had that vitriolic reaction because I just saw him make an error in this game against the Phillies.
Of course.
But Kelvin Gutierrez has been pretty phenomenal over at third base. People have started making Kelvin Machado jokes on Twitter. And yeah, I mean, like, it's kind of funny because he does kind of have that same like super lanky build that the young Manny had over there when we were seeing him diving all over the place and such. I am not saying that Kelvin Gutierrez is as good as Manny Machado, but I think he's been playing at a really, pretty high level. I think like, if he had the bat to stay in the lineup for some team over the course of an entire year, the question I think does become like, I think if he keeps this level of performance up, Tyler actually pointed out that he was terrible as a defender with the Royals earlier this year before he picked him up. But like, if he keeps up that level, like there's no reason that he couldn't be a, top 5 top 5 defensive third baseman in the American League. I mean, it was real, like, it's been really impressive. It's the routine plays, and it's also, beyond that, he is making some like star level, backhands going across into foul territory, like diving plays. It's been really impressive. And so like, the question became to me, like, kind of how does he mix in next year with like how this Orioles team is shaking out? And I think it's really interesting because all of a sudden, just kind of out of nowhere, I think we're like getting really crowded in the infield. And especially like, we talk about signing somebody like a third baseman to, like potentially add some pop into the lineup and just kind of stabilize what's happening. But then at the same time, like, who becomes the odd man out between Jahmai Jones, Ramon Urias, Jorge Mateo, Kelvin Gutierrez, all these guys. And I think Gutierrez was the easy answer earlier this year, but I think he's really started performing. And I looked it up earlier, and he's got like positive WAR with the bat. He hasn't been totally anemic. I'm not saying he's, got any type of like legitimate pop, but
right.
He's been like fine with the bat, and he's been contributing to a smaller extent, and he's been contributing big time with the glove. So I don't know. I think like it's going to be a pretty interesting spring training battle, seeing how this Orioles infield shakes out. Like, I think Urias is a lock. I think probably, I don't know. I might not even say Mateo's a lock. Like, I think that Gutierrez, Mateo, and Jahmai Jones all kind of are up in the air. And, potentially if we bring one person in, I guess you could have space to keep all of them, but you might like need to drop an arm in the bullpen or something to make that happen, especially given the number of outfielders that we have. So like it just the roster decisions become really interesting, I think. And I don't know, like how do you guys see him fitting in next year? Like is he around?
I think the bat is an issue. As a third baseman, the bat is a problem.
Right. Yeah. I think that's the big thing. Yeah, I mean, so I think Mateo is a lock for next year, just throwing that out there. But right. I think I think the Orioles could try. I mean, maybe the Orioles try to do what they did with Rio Ruiz and just stick him over at second base. Problem is with that now, of course, is that one, of course, it's a very different position and he might struggle over at second base. And also we have a few guys that can play second base. So what's the urgency to do that exactly? Right. I think the position, he's very good defensively at a position where a big bat is required. And that's just kind of like an unfortunate reality that is, a lot of power is expected from a third base generally in contemporary Major League Baseball, right? But anybody who watches him just defensively, I think you don't even have to watch him that much to see, what he's doing really well, right? He's ranging both to his left and his right really well. He's throwing runners out that have these swinging bunts where he's charging the ball. He's also has multiple like basket catches over his head, ranging out into left field, right? So, like in all aspects of the position, I think he is doing really, really well defensively. The question is just about his bat, and he's the kind of glove that you want every day, at third base, right? So it's you're limiting his weakness, but you're also greatly limiting his strength too when you make him a utility infielder type guy. And he really only plays third base, so he's not even much of a utility infielder. He's just a backup third baseman. So I think he's kind of in a tough situation just because of the bat. But I mean, I think he's going to be in the mix. I think he probably isn't the favorite to hold the position. I think it's more likely they, try to get Mateo over there with Urias at short and Jones at second, most likely. So I think he's not the favorite, and I think it's hard to keep him as a backup. So I think his avenue actually to being on the team is actually starting over at third base, unless he can learn a new position or be more versatile defensively, which I don't know that he can.
Yeah, I kind of think that the Orioles infield, they're going to go get a shortstop again this offseason. It might be a Jose Iglesias. It might be a Freddie Galvis, something like that. Because I think Ramon Urias fits better at second base personally. And all the time, Brandon Hyde he plays Urias. I mean, I know he's on the IL too, but he plays Urias at second. And he says the reason for that is because shortstop is more like difficult on whatever this injury has. So it's like a recurring thing. I think defensively he works better at second anyway. And then I think Mateo could be like a third baseman utility type of guy. Like we got to be realistic about like all the ceilings of all of these guys. There's probably none of these infielders are like the future anchors of a good Orioles team. I think any one of them could potentially be like a useful piece on that team, but the reality is probably none of them are going to be starters on those teams. So
this conversation's only interesting considering who we are. Yeah.
Right. And the Orioles might go sign Carlos Correa this offseason.
Oh,
boom.
maybe.
10-year deal. Shake the
Probably not.
Probably not, but I can dream for a couple more months, I think.
We had a nice talk about it on the podcast. And
yeah. We'll see.
That was all the entertainment we're going to get out of it, I think.
But yeah, I mean, Gutierrez, I like what he's doing with the glove now, but yeah, the bat's a little problematic.
Yeah, I also realized that I completely lied. So his overall WAR with the Orioles is positive, but that's just based on the defense. His like solely offensive WAR is still negative, and substantially so.
which makes sense.
I was gonna say he's hitting 200, so
I'm not saying it's good.
Right.
All right, last.
He does have a hit tonight, though. He's 1 for 2 tonight. Yeah.
Cool.
Boom, 500.
It's turning it around. Yeah.
Last topic we want to just touch on real quick is that the Bowie Bay Sox are the Orioles' lone minor league affiliate in the playoffs. I think the Norfolk Tides are still playing games, but they're still in the regular season. Bowie is into the playoffs, and they're in the championship series. They did lose on Tuesday night, and they are currently losing on Wednesday night. So this series could be over by the time you even hear this. But yeah, something. And Grayson Rodriguez pitched not great tonight, which is unfortunate.
Pretty bad, actually.
Yeah, he got lit up a little bit, got knocked around. I think he racked up a couple strikeouts. But look, I mean, Eli and I were kind of talking about this before. This is his longest professional season ever. He's still only 21 years old. He's had a really, really good season otherwise. He's the top pitching prospect in baseball, like by every outlet. So don't let this get you disappointed. But I think is it a best of 5 series, this AA series? I think it is.
I actually could not tell you.
I think it's best of 5. So even if they're down 0-2, they should still have at least one more game after this is posted, if I'm able to get it posted in time. But yeah, I think that's all we really wanted to touch on. Then we want to do Oriole of the week. Oriole of the fortnight. I don't know, however often we record these. Last episode's Oriole was Steve Stone. And how this works is we give you 3 facts about a former or current Oriole. And then you can, play along at home, guess who that Oriole is. Please don't Google or Bing or Yahoo or Ask Jeeves, but you can play along and then either reach out to us on social media and we'll shout you out. Brady did get the answer right again, as he always does. Thank you, Brady. We appreciate your loyal listenership. So the first fact about this week's Oriole is that they were drafted in the 19th round of the 1965 NFL draft by the Dallas Cowboys.
They served
by all means, sir.
They served as the Padres hitting coach for parts of 2 seasons from 2006 to 2007.
Fact number 3. He led the 1971 Orioles with a .318 batting average.
Kind of doing a throwback here. This is before our time, more our father's time. So that's interesting. I'm sure
not our father's time.
No,
this was our father was 20.
Oh, I was saying like more, not before, but like during our father's time. My dad was born in 1960, so he would have been 11. Or no, my dad was born in 56. What am I saying? My mom was born in 60, so my dad would have been 16. So that's prime baseball fanhood right there.
Prime.
Yes. All right. That is all of the topics for this week. What we would like for you guys to do, if you are so inclined, is to follow and subscribe to the podcast on either social media or on your preferred podcast application like Apple Podcasts or Spotify. If you're able to, please give us a rating and a review. That helps us reach more ears. That would be appreciated. And our various social media handles are at The Warehouse Pod on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Eli, where can people listen to your opinions or hear your opinions?
They are all over the place on Twitter at Elijah Ginsburg, and like Tyler said, at The Warehouse Pod.
Cool. And Jesse, how about you?
People can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Juggernaut8678. That's JUGGERNAUT 8678.
Nice. And I am on Instagram and Twitter at _Ty Young. And you can also go to CamdenChat.com where I write some blogs. I think that is about it. We are recording this on the 22nd of September, and sometimes our recording schedule gets a little messed up. So it's possible we have one more in-season podcast, and it's also possible we'll just be doing a wrap-up podcast. We're not too sure yet, but we will try to squeeze in one more before the end of the Orioles regular season, where we're going to be talking about the Rangers series, the Red Sox series, and potentially the final road trip of the year, which has the Orioles going up to Canada for 3 against the Toronto Blue Jays. The Orioles are going to attempt to play spoiler one way or another. I think that's all we got, guys. Anything else to add before we get on out of here?
I personally hope they play spoiler for the Blue Jays, as in like help the Blue Jays to the playoffs, and we knock out some of these other non-Rays AL East teams.
I was very frustrated we couldn't at least win one game against the Red Sox. I mean, totally expected. Knew it probably wasn't going to happen, but it would have been nice to get one and not accelerate them to the postseason at least.
Well, look, we can sweep the Red Sox and then get swept by the Blue Jays, and that would be amazing. That'd be the final week of the season. That'd be incredible.
Yeah. Well,
Blue Jays.
See what happens. Yeah, right. We're we heavily prefer the Blue Jays to any Yankees or Red Sox postseason. So
particularly the Red Sox. The Yankees I don't get annoyed by as much. It's much more the Red Sox are more of a headache, I think.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. Plus they have Alex Corris, our manager, and not too excited about him anymore. So
he cheated.
Yeah, right.
All right. Well, that's all we got. So thank you all so much for listening to the Warehouse Podcast. We will be back in the next week or two with a new episode for you to listen to. Until next time, I'm Tyler.
I'm Jesse.
And I'm Eli.
And you've been listening to the Warehouse Podcast. Thanks.